May the ancestral practice of the Haka awaken the ancestral practices that live within you, that are here to stop colonial violence that is being enacted on Indigenous people in the global South right now. Wake up.
Thousands are marching to New Zealand's capital to protest against a controversial bill which could impact the rights of Indigenous Maori people. The Treaty of Waitangi was signed between the British Crown and over 500 Maori chiefs back in 1840. It protected the rights, interests and lands of Maori tribes. But now the ACT Party in New Zealand's coalition has proposed a bill arguing that those rights should also be applied to non-Indigenous people.
The division is there whether this bill is here to reveal it or not, and we cannot afford to ignore it any longer.
This led to the country's youngest MP staging a haka in Parliament, a traditional Maori performance of strength and unity. The Maori people, who make up almost 20% of New Zealand's population, argue the Treaty Principles Bill undermines their rights and encourages a racist rhetoric. The Prime Minister has also criticised the bill.
Treaty issues are complex. They've been negotiated, debated, discussed over 184 years. It's simplistic to assume that you can, through the stroke of a pen, resolve all of that.
Coalition partners have said they won't support the second and third reading of the bill, so it will likely fail.
Our Maori brothers and sisters are showing us what it looks like to use our Indigenous cultures to reclaim white colonial spaces that are used to cause harm. If you have not, I need you to go back and watch the whole video and feel the power of the Haka. Feel the power of the Haka in Parliament. Look at the faces of all the members of Parliament and the impact that ancestral cultural practice and protest of saying, no, you will not change this founding document.
The response to hana-rawhiti tearing up the anti-Maori bill yesterday in the New Zealand Parliament has been largely in support. But there are definitely those that are identifying with the colonizer and calling this performative and a break in the decorum of the processes of the Parliament. So I wanted to shed light on exactly what happened that led to hana-rawhiti tearing up the bill and performing the haka in protest. First of all, the bill itself seeks to ratify and redefine the Treaty of Waitangi, which is the founding treaty between Maori people and the New Zealand colonizers. Secondly, hana-rawhiti and the rest of the Maori party asked for space to give commentary and to have a debate about the bill, which was denied. As a result, hana-rawhiti tore up the bill in protest, and the Maori party performed the haka in protest as their last resort. And that's the thing about colonizers. They weaponize decorum and quote-unquote the rule of law when it suits them. When in reality, there is nothing more violent than colonialism and imperialism. They will claim peace and equal rights as they break treaty after treaty, which is what this bill intends to do.
Haka is a traditional Maori dance that they do in New Zealand. Now, Maori is separate from New Zealand. Maori are the traditional Indigenous people of New Zealand. Most famously, the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team, they do it before their rugby matches. That's how I came to know about the haka. Now, why are they doing it in the middle of Parliament? So basically, New Zealand, much like Australia and America, at one point had British rule. Now, in New Zealand, what they decided to do over there is that the British rule, the Crown, let's call it the Crown, they decided to go, okay, we're going to rule over New Zealand people, but the Maori people, they're going to be their own separate thing. And they had a treaty. But the treaty was actually written in two different languages. One was written in English and one was written in Maori. And now the guy you see here, this guy is trying to make a bill that basically puts an umbrella over all New Zealanders, Maori and regular New Zealanders, and say we're going to be all ruled under the Crown. And the Maoris are like, no, we're not having this. We've been working under this treaty for 184 years. We're Maori. We have our own Maori ways. We work with the Crown. The Crown doesn't work above us. And things got really heated. When this lady, when she spoke up, what she was saying here is that if you imagine just like in America, you have the Democratic, you have the Republican side, right? Let's say that this lady, she's the Republican side. That's not how it works exactly. But she was saying that anyone on the other side, anyone from the opposition, could stand up and vote against their party in favor of keeping Maori. And the chairman, the guy that sits at the chair there, he was like, no, sit down. And then this lady, she stood up to give her vote and say what she wanted to say. And basically she was saying, we're not being heard, so I'm going to give you the haka, and we're going to show you that we are Maori and we're not backing down from this fight. And the haka breaks out. That's the nut and bolts of it, is that the treaty, they're trying to break the treaty or redefine the treaty. The language between Maori and English is being kind of misconstrued, and the English people are saying this is what it means, and the Maori's like, that's not what it means, and they're trying to rewrite the bill, and the Maoris are like, nah mate, we're going to give you the haka because we're not going to stand for this bill, and trip the bill up.
So you mean to tell me that the youngest person in the New Zealand Parliament, who happens to be a woman, who happens to be under the age of 22 years old, who also happens to be Indigenous, in community with her Indigenous brothers and sisters, with her people, because of her act of bravery, standing up to disrupt colonial process and do an ancestral practice, which alarmed her community in that room to stand up in solidarity with her for the rights of the community that she stands for more largely, which is the Maori people. In her bravery, in her act of bravery, was able to get millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of views on what the New Zealand Parliament, the colonizer, is doing through colonial process to infringe upon her rights. America, wake up. All of that same power that lives in her lives in each and every one of us. But we must first be in community with one another, and then we must be aligned and connected to our ancestral lineage, understand the power of our ancestral practices, and be willing to disrupt colonial practices and processes that are here right now, infringing upon our rights. It is not a show for our eyes to just be like, oh, that was so cool. I cry every time I see a haka.
Don't mind the way I look, just listen to the message. White people have a habit. White people, the way they came to Africa to colonize, and just like the way they did to other countries, is the same way they went to New Zealand and found the indigenous people of that land, the Maori people. And they signed a treaty. We are coming to colonize you, but hey, we are going to give you independence. You're gonna be your own people in this country. For the sake of peace, of which that is what most of countries have done. I mean, look at Africa. We wake up, they came here to the continent, they found us here having a life. But then after years later of them colonizing us, then we have to look for independence, which doesn't make sense. But anyway, Maori people, they signed the treaty. After 184 years in 2024, this man with his fat face, he's out here making a bill that these people ain't nothing because they feel like they are tired of the indigenous people of their land. See, the thing is, they expected the Maori people to be washed away. White people, when they thought they were coming from Britain to enter New Zealand, they were going to make the population of the Maori people wiped away. But guess what? The Maori people stayed true to their culture, true to their tradition, true to their language, true to their lifestyle. And right now, there are millions in New Zealand. And the whites do not want to see that. This is why we are standing here in 2024 and the white man is sitting in parliament telling the people, the ancestors of those that are living now, that, oh, you ain't got no rights now. If we are to learn one thing, most especially as black people, they fear us. When we speak out, they fear us when we stand up. She's 22. And she made each and every one of them shut up. What do we need to learn from this young lady? What do we need to learn from Maori people? We were colonized by the whites, but it's 2024 as black people, as indigenous people to our countries and our lands. We need to stand strong and firmly, or else they literally want to wipe. Oh no. Oh hell no. White people. Oh my God, white people. It's 2024 and they really thought they are going to wipe away an entire culture of people that they found on their land. Y'all don't mind my voice. My voice is gone, but like, white people have the nerve, you guys. They found Maori people on their land. They colonized them. They signed a treaty. After years later, no, they want to take away the treaty. How greedy are the Brits? Y'all tell me what you think in the comment section, but when I saw this, I was like, a wake-up call. A wake-up call. A wake-up call, most especially to people of color. Because look at her, what she did. She stood up, she raised an entire nation of youngins, and now the whites are afraid. See, that's the problem with the whites. The Maori, they accepted the whites to stay with them. Now the whites are feeling like they are too much of the majority. They want to kick away the people that they found.
They said we'd never survive. We're now 1 million. They said our language would be extinct. Te Reo Māori was my first language. They said I'd never be in Parliament. Too young, too female, too Māori. And we proved them wrong.
And something to note is that the woman who started the haka is the youngest member of parliament, led by the youngest. Led by the youngest. All of the members collectively and the gallery collectively, one band, one sound, were able to completely pause parliament. It scared the bridges off them white folk.
To the young lady that was performing the haka in that New Zealand courtroom, and she ripped that paper and started going in, that was one of the most badass things I have ever seen. And every time I see it on my FYP, I do not skip it. I do not skip it. I do not skip it. Also, to all of the TikTok producers and DJs who are even thinking about mixing and remixing that clip, don't.